The morning sun rolled across my ranch like it always had, slow, golden, and stubborn. The windmill creaked, cattle shifted in the distance, and the old fence line marked land my family had owned for 3 generations. I was repairing a loose post when a white SUV came barreling down the dirt road, dust kicking up like it owned the place. It stopped 10 feet from me. Out stepped a woman in oversized sunglasses, a clipboard tucked under her arm like a weapon. Her hair was pulled tight, her jaw even tighter. She didn't look around. She didn't admire the land. She looked at me the way someone looks at a stain. "Excuse me," she said sharply. "Who authorized you to be here?" I wiped my hands on my jeans. "That'd be me. This is my ranch," she scoffed, flipping open her clipboard. "According to the Willow Creek Estates Homeowners Association, this land falls within HOA jurisdiction, unauthorized structures, livestock, and—" She glanced at my boots. "Individuals are not permitted." I stared at her, confused. "Ma'am, this ranch was here before that subdivision, before the road, before the signs." She stepped closer. "I don't care about your stories. You need to vacate immediately." I laughed once, thinking it had to be a joke. "You're telling me to leave my own land?" "Yes," she said, smiling thinly. "Failure to comply will result in fines, legal action, and removal." That's when I noticed the logo on her clipboard. Willow Creek Estates, a brand new development built right up against my property line last year. Mansions where mesquite used to grow. "I've got deeds," I said calmly. "County records, surveys." She waved a manicured hand. "You rural types always say that. You have until sunset." I watched her walk back to her SUV, heels sinking into the dirt like the land itself rejected her. As she drove off, I felt something shift. Not fear, but resolve. That afternoon, I made a few phone calls. Not angry ones, careful ones. By sunset, nothing happened. No fines, no police, just quiet. But I knew people like her didn't stop. What she didn't know, what she couldn't know from her clipboard, was that this ranch wasn't just family land. It was home to reunions, flag ceremonies, and weekends where old friends visited. Friends who happened to wear uniforms once. Friends who still answered calls. The next morning, as the sun rose again over the fence line, engines echoed down the road. And this time they weren't mine. The rumble started faint, like distant thunder. I was leaning against the fence, sipping black coffee, when the sound grew louder, mechanical, deliberate, impossible to ignore. Dust kicked up from the dirt road, blotting the morning sun with a haze of motion. I squinted and froze. Dozens of vehicles were approaching, but these weren't trucks or SUVs. They were military-grade, purposeful. 300 Marines rolled onto the property like a tide, boots clanging, rifles slung, but no aggression, at least not yet. My mind raced. This had to be some sort of stunt. A military exercise? Wrong place, wrong ranch. Then I saw the banners, custom patches sewn on uniforms. They weren't here for me. They were here because someone had crossed a line. And somehow, my neighbor, the infamous HOA Keran, was about to find that out the hard way. I stepped forward, raising my hands. "Wait, this isn't—" Too late. The perimeter was already forming. Tanks, light but armored, lined the edges. Helicopters buzzed above, keeping a steady orbit. Every exit was covered, every angle watched. I felt the crunch of dirt under boots near me. A commanding officer approached, clipboard in hand. Not the same clipboard as the HOA ladies, thankfully. "Ranch owner?" he asked, voice calm but firm. "That'd be me," I said. He nodded, eyes scanning the land. "We've been informed someone has been attempting to assert authority over your property illegally. We're here to ensure your safety and enforce local rights. We're also making a friendly suggestion. Your neighbor should probably stay indoors." I blinked. "Wait, you're talking about her?" He smiled, but it wasn't a joking smile. "Yes. Let's just say she has a unique way of interpreting rules that doesn't quite match the law." I swallowed hard, my stomach twisting in disbelief and amusement. My land, my rules, finally reinforced by a force I hadn't imagined I'd call. Inside the house across the line, I knew she could hear it. The engines, the boots, the hum of helicopters. I could see her car doors locking, her phone shaking in her hand as she called someone for advice. The officer clapped me on the shoulder. Enjoy your ranch, and maybe send a polite note to your neighbor reminding her that sometimes authority comes in unexpected forms. I couldn't help laughing. The surrealism of it all, the HOA letter, the threats, the wild escalation to hundreds of Marines was almost cinematic. But this was real. My property was mine, my home, my legacy, and for the first time I could feel a sense of victory without even firing a shot. By midday, the Marines had withdrawn from my main fields, forming a buffer around her house instead. I watched, satisfied, as she realized the severity of her overreach. From that day on, every time she thought about the ranch, she'd remember the morning 300 Marines showed up, not to intimidate me but to protect what was rightfully mine. Yet the calm after the storm was deceptive. The real confrontation, I realized, was just beginning. The morning after the Marines had taken positions around her property, I sat on the porch, coffee in hand, watching the chaos from a distance. Not mine, of course. I had no intention of escalating things further. My ranch was my sanctuary, and I wasn't about to turn it into a battlefield. Yet there she was, pacing her living room like a caged animal, staring out the window at the uniformed officers stationed outside her gates. I couldn't help but smirk. For weeks, she had believed a single HOA letter could control me, dictate my life, and erase generations of family history. Now, every plan she had meticulously plotted seemed to unravel in real time, and she had no one to blame but herself. The phone on my porch buzzed. It was the officer in charge. "Morning," he said, voice steady. "We have a situation. She's requesting a meeting, wants to discuss terms." I raised an eyebrow. "Terms?" "Apparently she wants to negotiate. She's very concerned about fines, reputations, and image." I chuckled. "Sounds about right." By mid-morning, she was standing at the edge of the barricade, tall, tense, and fuming, but not entirely helpless. I approached slowly, careful to respect the line. "Good morning," I said calmly. "I assume you've realized that letters aren't enough to enforce authority?" Her glare could have sliced steel. I just want what's fair. The HOA has rules. You can't just ignore them." "I'm not ignoring them," I replied. "I'm living my life on my land. This ranch existed long before any HOA. The rules you're citing, they don't apply here. You've crossed a line and now you have to deal with the consequences." She flinched slightly at my words but straightened. "This is harassment. You've learned that actions have results," I said. "I didn't call the Marines for fun. I called them because I needed to protect my property. And thanks to their presence, we're able to avoid any unnecessary confrontation. For now." Her mouth opened, then closed. She sputtered, tried to argue, but every word seemed small against the reality of 300 disciplined Marines stationed a few hundred yards away. I continued, my voice calm but deliberate. "I don't want anyone hurt. I don't want escalation. I just want my ranch. And if you attempt this again, you won't just be facing letters. You'll face people who actually understand authority and law." For a long moment, she stared at me, eyes wide and calculating. Then slowly, she turned, walked back toward her house, slammed the door, and disappeared. I exhaled deeply. Victory, in its own quiet way, didn't always roar. Sometimes it was just the sight of someone finally understanding limits. But even as I returned to my porch, the phone buzzed again. The officer's voice was calm but serious. "Enjoy the calm while it lasts. She's not done, and neither are we." And I knew he was right. The storm had passed, but the real test of who ruled the land was still ahead. The days that followed were a tense mix of calm and anticipation. My ranch returned to its usual rhythm, cattle grazing, windmill creaking, dust swirling over the fence line. But there was always that quiet hum in the air, like the distant echo of boots on dirt. I knew she was plotting something. Keran never took a loss quietly. One afternoon, the officer called. She's tried filing another complaint. This time it's a formal injunction. Wants the county involved. I rubbed my forehead. And? We've already coordinated with local authorities. They're reviewing it, but she's getting desperate. Be ready for her next move. I nodded. This was the final chapter of her stubbornness. She had tried intimidation, letters, and even legal threats. Each attempt had been met with one response: calm authority backed by unshakable resolve. And now it was her patience wearing thin, not mine. That evening, I walked the property lines, surveying my land as if seeing it for the first time. Every fence post, every oak tree, every dusty trail was a reminder that this was mine. Not because I demanded it, but because it had been earned, protected, and loved for generations. As night fell, I saw lights flicker in her mansion across the fence line. She was pacing again, phone in hand, muttering. For a fleeting moment, I almost pitied her. Almost. But then the hum returned, the familiar sound of helicopters and distant boots. 300 Marines were back, not for confrontation, but as silent guardians of the boundary that had been crossed too many times. The next morning she appeared again, clipboard trembling, voice sharp but tired. "This isn't over," she said. I shook my head, smiling faintly. "It is. You've learned that authority isn't a title, it's action, and actions have consequences. Today you either accept limits or you face enforcement. That's your choice." I shook my head, smiling faintly. "It is. You've learned that authority isn't a title, it's action, and actions have consequences. Today you either accept limits or you face enforcement. That's your choice." Her face paled as the Marines stepped subtly forward, forming an unspoken line. I could see the realization hit her. This wasn't a threat. It was fact. The law, the property, and even the social order, everything she had ignored, was now aligned against her overreach. After a long silence, she closed her clipboard, muttered something under her breath, and disappeared inside. The gates of my ranch had never felt more secure. The sunset never more golden. I leaned against the fence, watching the dust settle. It had been a battle fought without violence, won without confrontation. The HOA letter, her arrogance, and her belief that she could dictate my life had all collapsed under the weight of truth, planning, and unexpected allies. Sometimes, victory doesn't roar. It walks quietly across the fields you've always called home, leaves the intruder behind, and lets the wind carry the story of who truly belongs. As night fell over my ranch, I realized something profound. No matter the opposition, some things, heritage, land, and the sense of home, are untouchable. And Keran? She'd remember that for a lifetime. Enjoying this wild ranch showdown story? Hit that subscribe button to catch more unbelievable real-life drama and jaw-dropping moments. Give this a like if the story kept you on the edge of your seat, and drop a comment below. What would you do if someone tried to take over your property?